Hey everyone, you thought last year's Super Bowl run was spotless. You think the Kansas City Chiefs are just going to stroll back into the big game like it's a casual family reunion? Nah, don't let that glossy 15-2 record cloud your vision. They were exposed in that brutal beatdown by Philly, and those cracks in the so-called kingdom, they're not surface level. They run deep straight into the foundation. So buckle up, hit that like button, and stay locked in till the end, because what I'm about to reveal will completely reshape your perception of this Chiefs team. Drop a W in the comments if you still believe in the dynasty, or hit him with an L if you think the peak has already passed. And if you bleed red and gold, don't just watch, subscribe. Let's get into it. They say numbers don't lie, but folks sure love hiding behind them. 15 wins, 2 losses, and a trip to the Super Bowl. On paper, that looks like dominance, but let's not kid ourselves. Just because you got invited to the dance doesn't mean you led the waltz. That humbling collapse against the Eagles, that wasn't just a loss. It was the universe tapping Kansas City on the shoulder whispering, fix your foundation. See, the NFL isn't about legacy. It's about urgency. What have you done for me lately? And right now, if they don't shore up that defense fast, the whole operation might implode faster than a discount store folding chair under pressure. Now, let me break down why Za'Darius Smith isn't just a bonus. He's the lifeline. You don't build dynasties on offense alone. You build them in the trenches with relentless pressure and rotational depth that makes quarterbacks second guess even lining up. Sure, you've got Chris Jones. Yes, George Karlaftis made strides, but when the playoffs come around, 2 guys aren't enough. Championships are won in the pass rush. When you're facing 5 wide sets and high octane offenses, you need a man off the edge who rushes like his mortgage is on the line. That's Za'Darius, a veteran warrior. No hype, just production. A 90.1 pass rush grade over the past 3 seasons from PFF. That's top 10. Not a fluke, a force. He doesn't need 15 sacks. He just needs to disrupt to give opposing QBS nightmares from that right edge. Because when you've got 3 legitimate threats on the line, that quarterback's internal clock becomes a ticking time bomb. Now, some of you might say, but Shannon, don't we have young guys ready to step up? Look, I love potential, but this ain't the time to roll the dice on maybe. You've got Patrick Mahomes in his prime. You've got Travis Kelce still teaching DBs what grown man roots look like. You don't sit back and hope talent emerges. You capitalize. And let's be clear, you're not trading away the house to get Zadarius. He's sitting right there in free agency, just waiting on a call. If you're serious about maximizing this Super Bowl window, this is a no-brainer. To be fair, the front office has been active. They fixed the O-line, bringing in Jalen Moore, drafting Josh Simmons, because last season Mahomes got folded more times than a beach chair. That upgrade alone will give Mahomes the half second. He needs to turn chaos into magic. Then there's Rashee Rice coming back. Xavier Worthy could be that spark. The wide receiver room, it's heating up. But that defense is still the missing piece. It's not broken, but it's not elite either. And this is where Zadarius changes the equation. This isn't just a signing, it's a statement. We're not resting. We're not reliving last year. We're coming for everything. You want to repeat. You want another confetti storm on Grand Boulevard. Then you don't just build a contender. You build a team that crushes the will of its opponents. That kind of reputation, it starts in the trenches. You stack monsters on that D-line until offensive coordinators lose sleep over their protection schemes. And don't hit me with the cap space excuses like you're the team's accountant. This is the NFL. If a team wants to make a move, they make it, push the money forward, restructure deals, trim the fat. We've seen it all before. The same front office that secured Mahomes for a decade. Yeah, they can figure this out. And let's not forget the intangibles, a wide leadership, swagger, playoff experience. Zadarius brings all of it. This ain't about a name. It's about finishing what you started. And right now, this move might be the difference between watching the Super Bowl and winning it. Bring Za'Darius Smith into that locker room, and suddenly those young defenders have a battle-tested warrior to rally behind. He's endured adversity, battled through injuries, and still brought consistent production. It's that kind of grit and resilience that's contagious. Come week 17, when seeding's on the line and everyone's body feels like it's been through a war, that's when a guy like Smith becomes the difference between survival and collapse. You've got to think bigger picture. Think postseason warfare. Think Josh Allen. Think Joe Burrow. Think Lamar Jackson in hostile AFC playoff environments. You really believe 2 edge rushers are enough to throw those guys off rhythm? Absolutely not. You need relentless waves of pressure. You need to unleash fresh legs that explode off the line, like they just downed a triple shot of espresso. And if Smith is your third option, that's not depth. That's a defensive luxury. That's the kind of elite rotation that elevates you from playoff worthy to flat out terrifying. The Chiefs are still that team until proven otherwise, but don't confuse great with untouchable. Great still gets beat. We saw it Philly steamrolled them, and the Eagles didn't even break a sweat. Add Za'Darius Smith to this lineup, and suddenly you're not reacting to punches. You're throwing the first blow. You're setting the tone. You're imposing your will on both sides of the ball. That's the blueprint for a dynasty. Don't get seduced by last year's Super Bowl trip. Don't let the celebration blind you to the reality. This roster, as talented as it is, has vulnerabilities, and we all know championships are decided in the margins. Signing Za'Darius Smith might not light up social media, but it might be the move that breaks the spirit of the entire AFC. And we're only getting started because this was the why. Now let's get into how one strategic signing could tilt the entire AFC landscape. Let's talk ripple effects, not just in a locker room, not just in a division, but across the entire conference. Signing Zadarius Smith doesn't just improve Kansas City. It sends every other AFC contender scrambling to rethink their offseason strategy. Imagine being Sean McDermott in Buffalo, already sweating bullets as the Super Bowl window starts to narrow, or John Harbaugh in Baltimore, riding high on Lamar's MVP season, only to look up and realize Kansas City just turned a good front seven into a nightmare-inducing unit. And don't get me started on Cincinnati. Joe Burrow's offensive line is already held together by hope and duct tape. Now you're going to drop Smith into the mix. That's not tactical. That's surgical brutality. Moves like this don't whisper, they roar. They send one message, we're not here to compete, we're here to dominate. Elite franchises don't just respond, they anticipate. You don't wait until January to realize your pass rush is lacking. You build it in August. So by the time the postseason hits, it's already muscle memory. Last year's gamble on Josh Uch, a complete misfire. He showed flashes in New England, but when he hit Arrowhead, he vanished. That kind of whiff doesn't just cost you box score stats. It costs you momentum, credibility, and most of all, trust. You don't roll the dice when you're chasing legacy, not just wins. That's what makes Zadarius Smith priceless. While the offense is polishing its timing, you need a defense that doesn't take 2 quarters to heat up. This is the NFL. There's no time for cold starts. Games are just as often won in the first 20 minutes as the final 2. Smith brings instant chaos, disruption from the snap. You plug him into this Chiefs front and watch the entire line transform. Karl Aftis becomes more dangerous. Chris Jones gets freed up. It's a domino effect, and it's deadly. You deepen the pass rush. Offenses are forced to max protect. That limits retrees, that slows down explosive receivers, that gives your secondary the extra seconds they need to make plays. One addition, one ripple, a championship chain reaction, and don't overlook the strategic implications. Every offensive coordinator on the Chiefs schedule just got a migraine. Thursday game plan scrap, slide protections, rewritten. Now they're not just game planning for Mahomes. They're spending hours figuring out which edge Smith will crash from and how to survive the storm he brings when he stunts with Chris Jones. You want to talk about making teams play left-handed. This is how you do it. That's what real defenses are made of. Not just stars, but cohesion, chemistry, calculated terror, and Smith. He fits this system like he was born in it. Versatile, experienced, hungry for a ring, and hunting with bad intentions. Some will point to sack numbers and try to downplay the movie. Let me explain something. Sacks are just the headline. Pressure is the story. Pressure wrecks timing. Pressure creates turnovers. Pressure shifts momentum. Za'Darius Smith is a disruptor. He doesn't just end plays. He blows up the setup. He short circuits offenses before they even execute. And that's exactly what Kansas City needs to stay on top. Because the truth is, it's their one bad Sunday away from watching someone else lift the Lamar Hunt trophy. The AFC is a gauntlet. Every week is a battle. The margin for error, razor thin. And if you're relying on almost good enough, you're already behind. Zadarius Smith isn't just a player. He's the preemptive strike this team needs to own the future. It's the kind of strategic strike that transforms potential into performance. It's how you stop chasing and start commanding. Let's zoom out for a second and talk about legacy. This isn't just about stacking another Lombardi. This is about immortality. The Chiefs are playing in rare air now where every season is no longer a quest for victory, but a referendum on dynastic greatness. You don't just want to win. You want to dominate. You want to carve out a run so historic, so undeniable that future generations look back and say, that was the team. Bringing in Za'Darius Smith, that's how you make sure your defense becomes as dreaded as your offense. Because right now, the balance is off. Mahomes and Kels grab the headlines, but the burden of proof still lies on the defense. Can they carry the weight when the offense hits turbulence? Because make no mistake, even the greatest offenses hit walls, bad weather, key injuries, brilliant defensive schemes. It happens. That's why you don't just build a defense that reacts. You build a defense that says, we got you. unit that can protect one score lead in the fourth, that can flip the field, snatch momentum, and never give it back. Za'Darius Smith helps you build that kind of defense. This isn't theoretical. It's proven. He's delivered in crucial moments. Now imagine him doing it under those Arrowhead lights, 50,000 strong, with every heartbeat in sync and every snap echoing through the stadium. That's not just defense. That's intimidation. This is how dynasties endure. They evolve, they reinforce, they refuse to get comfortable. Because complacency, it's the silent killer greatness. More champions have been undone by comfort than by injury. Look at the Packers after Favre. Look at the Seahawks post-glory. The second you think you've arrived, the league passes you by. And the Chiefs, they're too close to immortality to get sentimental now. You don't bring in Za'Darius Smith because you're desperate. You bring him in because you're dead serious about domination. There's a difference. Let's be clear. What are we really talking about? A veteran with a documented track record, a free agent who costs you 0 picks and doesn't sabotage your cap, a leader who elevates everyone around him, a playmaker with just enough fire left to tip the scales in January. That's not a gamble. That's a steal. Bottom line, you add Zadarius Smith to this Chiefs roster, and you're not just preparing for a season. You're weaponizing it. You're sending a statement to the rest of the NFLs. Kansas City isn't aiming to be great. They're planning to be legendary. And when we look back on the 2025 season, there's a real chance we'll point to this move as the moment the AFC crown got locked in red and gold. Now, if you've made it this far, you're one of the real ones. You don't just want highlights. You're here for the blueprint of greatness. And if you're a Chiefs fan, you already know how high the stakes are. Joe, here's what I need from you. You drop your take in the comments. Should Kansas City go all in and sign Zadarius Smith, or is this current roster ready to run it back? Smash that like button if you want the Chiefs defense to turn savage this year. Hit subscribe so you don't miss a single update, because if you bleed red and gold, this is your war room, and we're just getting started. Thank you guys. See you next video.